Subtopic 10.5 Doppler Effect. Everyone remember what it sounds like when a police car comes closer to you and passes by. The sound changes from a higher pitch to the lower pitch. This change in sound is called Doppler Effect. What happens if a source of sound is moving? So, when a sound is approaching, the sound will be with higher frequency compared when the sound is in stationary. When the sound is leaving, the sound will be with lower frequency compared when the sound is in stationary. So as you can see here in the diagram, short wavelength means lot of wave, which means high frequency, high sound. For long wavelength, it means fewer wave with a low frequency and low sound. Definition for Doppler effect. Doppler effect is defined as the change in the apparent frequency of a wave as a result of relative motion between the source and the observer. It is named for Austrian physicist Christian Doppler. He proposed the effect in 1842. General equation of Doppler effect. Frequency heard by observer is called apparent frequency. So here is the general equation of Doppler effect. We have two cases in the Doppler effect. The first case is a moving source and stationary observer, which means the V0 is equal to 0 meter per second. For A is when a source moves towards the stationary observer. As we can see in the diagram, Vs is in the same direction with V, thus we must use the minus sign. For B, a source moves away from the stationary observer. As we can see in the diagram, Vs is in opposite direction with V, thus we must use the plus sign. For the second case is moving observer and stationary source, which means the Vs is equal to 0 meter per second. So the first thing is when an observer moves towards the stationary source. As we can see here in the diagram, V0 is in opposite direction with V, thus we must use a plus sign. Next, when an observer moves away from the stationary source. In the diagram, V0 is in the same direction with V, thus use minus sign. The rules of using the general equation for Doppler effect. First, the Vs or V0 is in the same direction with V, which is the speed of sound, so we must use minus sign. Next, Vs or V0 is in the opposite direction with V, which is the speed of sound, thus we must use plus sign. The variation of apparent frequency and sound intensity. Application of the Doppler shift. So the Doppler effect can be used for any wave such as sound, light, and so on. Radar guns also use the Doppler shift to determine the speed of an oncoming car or the speed of a pitch in a baseball. The power of the Doppler shift. It can also be used by astronomers to determine the speed and direction of moving objects in space. For redshift, it means longer wavelength as objects move away from you. For blue shift, it means shorter wavelength as objects move towards you.